Hello my dear circle friends. I am driving back from the Brecon Beacons. We've been shopping in Brecon. My hubby's driving, that's Paul, and I thought this was a great opportunity while I'm sitting here to tell you the story about how I am about to purchase a coffee farm in Uganda. I just can't stop smiling when I say that. So it all goes back to 4 years ago, Christmas of 2020, when we were all going through that lockdown, and a Ugandan man reached out to me on Facebook, and he said to me, "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Buyinza Morgan and I am the leader of the Precious Choir of Uganda." He said, "And I've seen your online singing and I'm really moved by your music." And he said, "I would love to share our music with you." And I thought, what a lovely introduction, because, you know, sometimes you do get friend requests from people, and, you know, men particularly in Africa, and you just go delete, don't you? But I thought, well, this is really interesting. He's actually found me on YouTube. He's picked a song that he loves and he's offered to share his music, and he runs a choir and I run a choir. So I read it and I replied, and I thought, how lovely. And anyway, we ended up sharing music for our choirs to sing. He sang one of the songs that I'd recorded with my choir, with his choir, and I helped him teach them, because it was very different for him to teach his African choir, singing in very sort of British parallel harmony. So I helped him out with that, and he made it his own, and he's got a beautiful song that I will share with you. I'll put a link below. Hold On, Love Will See You Through. And when I first heard this recording that he'd made with his choir in Uganda of a song that I'd recorded, Love Will See You Through, and made it his own, I was just moved to tears. It was just magical. So it just grew from there. And the next thing, I started to find out more about his choir and his community. He invited me to a committee meeting. He wanted to show me what the work they were doing. And actually the committee meeting wasn't about music. It was about community. It was about community farming. It was about the children in his village who needed to go to school but had been stopped from attending school because they've lost a parent or both parents. There is no free local school, and even if there was, you wouldn't send your kids there anyway. So the kids usually, because of poverty, unable to go to school because they're working on their parents' plot of land, you know, that kind of thing. So he talked to me about how the choir were running the local community farm, which turns out has been left to him by his parents, but also what's the word? Is it philanthropist? Victor was a philanthropist. Yeah. Was travelling through and spotted Morgan as a young community leader. He was only in school. He was only about 16 when he was spotted, because he's been passionate about helping his community ever since he was about 16. So he was gifted a little plot of land by this philanthropist, who's a famous man. I'll tell you about him another time. So we've got this little community farm, and they were growing whatever they could to sell, to raise money to put kids in school. That was their idea, but it wasn't all that successful. And then the price of crops went down. Uganda had a really good crop year, so the price of crops went down. So they weren't really making any headway with raising funds for the community. So he introduced me to the choir. It wasn't like a Zoom meeting. I thought it was going to be a Zoom meeting. It wasn't. It was a WhatsApp text meeting. So it took 2 hours to just do the basic introductions and the basic agenda. But it was just magical. I was so honoured to be invited. Anyway, long story short, the collaboration grew, and we started working on little projects that our choir could help them with. And the first one was to sponsor. So we sponsored a child, didn't we? We sponsored two. We sponsored a little girl called Babira, who was in high school, but she'd been pulled out of high school because she'd got pregnant at 14. Almost certainly not her own fault. And so she's raising a 2-year-old. So I I've sponsored her to put her through high school, and she's doing brilliantly. 3.5 years later, she's doing absolutely brilliantly, and she's just so happy. And when he told me it costs something like £150 a term to put them to private school, private boarding school, a really good standard private boarding school with all their food and everything, I thought, really? 150, maybe we can help. Anyway, Paul sponsored a little boy in primary called Mahindo. Paul and Sean cover the cost of that, and his name is Mahindo, and he's doing really, really well. So there's that. And then some people in my choir started sponsoring kids as well, so we got 10 kids in school. And then the next project was, we realised that some of these families, I mean, the kids are going to be all right, but the family was left with very little food. So I said, well, what can we do to provide food on a more sustainable basis? Do we buy a bag of beans, or do we buy them some tools for their land? You know, what is it? And we started thinking about buying them a chicken. And I got Morgan thinking about this. Oh, we call him Morgan. It's he thought it was his English name, but it's a Welsh name. And he was delighted when I told him it was a Welsh name. Obviously, they have like a British name, and then they have a Ugandan name. So he's happy to be called Morgan. Buyinza is his Ugandan name. So the next thing we talked about is, like, what if I buy a chicken? Will the chicken get eaten? Will it get caught? Will it get, you know, do we need to have a house for a chicken? And then we started plotting this little chicken farm, and I was thinking maybe we could have like 20 chickens or something, but Morgan he thinks big, so he priced up the cost of building a chicken house that would hold 200 chickens. And I said, let me know what it would cost, because maybe I could do a crowdfunder. So long story short, he did a project plan and everything. It was £1,000. So between me and the two choirs I was running online at that time, we managed to fund this chicken house. So the chicken farm started, and actually he did so well with the funds that we provided. They actually built a 2-story chicken house that was capable of housing about 800 birds. So we launched the Flourishing Communities chicken farm for eggs, you know, to provide the community with eggs. And while this was going on, we established the Flourishing Communities Foundation, which is now an official NGO. So that is the framework that we're using to develop the farm, develop the sponsorship program. And last year, on Christmas Day last year, we went to collect Morgan from Heathrow Airport, and he stayed with us for a month, and he is just the most beautiful young man. I think of him like a son now. He's so kind and compassionate, and all he wants to do is help his community, but he wants to be big. He wants to scale this project up. He wants to be president of Uganda one day. He's so beautiful. Anyway, we had him over for a month. We took him to meet some choir leaders and some choirs, and we took him to the local honey farm, the honey shop. There's a local beekeeper called Tim just around the corner from me, and we started talking about the possibility of expanding, creating a honey farm on our community farm. And he loved this idea, so we went to see Tim, and Tim said, yeah, it's absolutely viable. Tim knew all about beekeeping in Africa. He was able to give him advice. He donated a beekeeper's suit and some startup equipment, which Morgan carried back to Uganda with him. And in the last year, we have now got 29 beehives installed, and 25 of those are now flourishing with bee colonies. So what we did was, last spring I did a little mini project. You could sponsor a beehive, and it was about £50 or £75 back then. You could either buy one type of hive or the other, and people could get their names engraved on these hives. So between the choirs and my friends on Facebook, we now have 29 beehives, and they are just about ready to start harvesting the first crop of honey. So this Christmas, I'm doing another little campaign where you can sponsor a beehive. You buy a beehive, we engrave your name on it, and you get a framed photo of the hive. So that might be a nice Christmas present for somebody. And that will bring in £85 a year for the foundation, and if we can grow this enough, that could provide Morgan with an income so that he can do the work of the foundation, and then when we go on beyond that, we can start to sponsor the next child with the income that we generate. So what do we need? We need about 8 hives to be able to reliably sponsor another child, something like that. So the coffee, where does the coffee happen? So about 2 years ago, Morgan, I helped Morgan buy a little plot of land. He'd been raising some money. He needed about $2,000 and he was £300 short. So he said, this piece of land, Sue, we're going to build a school, we're going to grow coffee. And so I helped him with the 300 that he needed to buy this plot of land for the foundation. And he's actually started building a primary school. You know, it's just unbelievable what this young man is capable of. So anyway, let's come to the coffee. 2 years ago, one of the plots of land that he has now got, he wanted to, the coffee is like gold. And he said, we're going to start doing coffee. I want to use 2 acres of my land to sow coffee, and we'll have an experimental coffee project. Do you want to be part of it? And so many of my friends thought this was such a good idea that about 4 of us put in, maybe 6 of us put in about £50 each to buy enough coffee plants, little coffee plants, I think it was 600 plants in this 2 acre plot or something like that, 1,200 plants, maybe a 600 per acre, but it was only a few hundred quid. And now 2 years later on, we're growing coffee, and when he came last year, he's got a few coffee beans that he's brought to sample. So it's so exciting. We went to see coffee roasters, and the coffee roasters were really interested in our coffee. Anyway, so there's this 5 acre plot of land that he's been talking to me about for the last year, and I've said, if I can raise 10,000, I will buy this land. Well, as soon as I got £10,000, I'll buy this land. But the piece of land has just come available now, 2 acres, which is adjacent to the road. So what that means is, if he could buy this 2 acres, it would connect the foundation's farm to the main road. And he's very excited about this, because what he needs now is a kind of farm shop. He needs a trading post and farm shop, somewhere where he can bring, you know, a truck in off the main road rather than going through somebody else's farm. So it would be such good value for him to have this. And it's going for, it's just under £2,000 for an acre. So the total investment for this 2 acre plot is £3,800. And so I'm buying it. I've sold off a few shares and a bit of crypto that wasn't really doing anything, and I've raised the funds through my own savings to buy this little plot of land. And we're just going through the process now, and it's going to be 25% of the profits goes to the foundation, and then Morgan and I split the other profits. So it's so exciting. And we've done the forecasting, because for the last year we've been helping him with business planning and forecasting for this coffee farm, now that he knows what he's doing and he's already growing coffee successfully. So we know what the figures could look like. So it could be a really good investment for me, as well as being a good fundraiser for the foundation. So I'm so excited. And I'm really, really delighted to be able to tell you this story. Have I missed anything? The honey, the coffee, the chicken farm, the sponsorship?
No, I think that's all of it covered.
And the choir.
And the choir, yeah.
And some of you will know I was talking about going to Uganda this Christmas. It wasn't priority. But right now, in fact, Monday, he's been working towards running a volunteer camp. He's got 45 people visiting the farm to help him out with, so they can learn how to tend the land. It's all organic, even biodynamic, sustainable, sustainable farming that he's passionate about. He's got 45 people from some of the kids that we've sponsored. We're paying 50 quid for them to attend. It's £50 for the week. He's also got some wealthy people going along as well, and he only charged them 50 quid. I said, next time you charge them a VIP place and you start making some money from this. So he's making a little bit of a loss on this camp because he hasn't done his pricing right. And this is why he looks to me to be a little bit of a mentor, because they've been trained in farming, they've been trained in science, they've been trained in all the subjects, but they don't really have that business acumen. So I've been all along helping him cost things, forecast things, make sure you look at all the possibilities, all the contingencies and that kind of thing. So he thinks of me as a mentor, as well as a co-founder. So I'm so excited, and I've promised him I will definitely go out for the next volunteer camp. He wouldn't have wanted me there anyway. He wanted me there, but he's got too much to do to host me as well. So I'm hoping to go in March when he runs his next camp. Hope you liked that little intro, and thanks all for letting me tell you the story.